Let me change my name.
I'm so happy to be here with Dhyana Masla again. We've spoken before, and it's so lovely to see your radiant face once again. Thank you for joining me.
It's such an honor to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
And I really mean it. You do look radiant, and you've
Oh,
recently had a baby. Is that correct?
I did. He's just over 2 months old now. And yeah, it attests to the beauty of what postpartum can bring if we are aligned with nature. I
Well,
feel, yeah, I feel so good.
that is exactly what I wanted to ask you about because I've been following your journey on Instagram, as I'm sure many have too, because it's really inspiring to watch a woman go through a very positive birthing experience and a beautiful, easeful, joyful, gorgeous postnatal period, which is really what it seems like you have enjoyed. So, can you indulge us a little bit and just tell us about the birth and the postnatal time? Can you give us a
Yeah,
little juicy inside scoop?
yeah, yeah. I mean, so much to tell. It was my third baby, and we did what they call wild pregnancy, where I was just deeply trusting in my body and nature's design and in the process of growing a baby and being able to birth it. And it was beautiful because I feel like because of that, because I wasn't outsourcing, I felt more connected with my baby than I had with my other two. All throughout pregnancy, I felt his energy, who he was, who I was becoming because of him. I felt um, the medicine of pregnancy in a really profound way, that whatever is arising. I remember my first pregnancy, I would feel guilty if I didn't feel happy because I know my baby's feeling everything. But this with this one, just knowing that whatever I'm feeling, it's because he's helping me heal. Whatever is arising is medicine. Whatever it is perfect. It's what I'm meant to feel. It's meant to form me into the woman, the mother I'm meant to become for them. And then my birth was a powerful deep dive into trust. I think that a lot of people would say like how trusting I am that I didn't go to the doctors during pregnancy, and I feel like that felt really easy. I with my second, I'm not going to go so into details unless you want to. But I went to get my 20-week ultrasound, which is usually the only ultrasound I would do just to check the organs and make sure that a home birth would be safe. Um, but they diagnosed something that put me at high risk, and my midwives dropped me at 37 weeks and said the only safe place to birth this baby is in the hospital. And I just couldn't imagine being in a hospital to birth my baby, a place that for me feels so unnatural. With people that I don't know and love, and with lights and sounds. And I just couldn't, like, I did everything. I was doing meditations, just, I packed my hospital bag. I was like, if this is what's best for my baby, of course, that's what I'm going to do. But I just couldn't believe that this is what would be best for them. Um, and after talking to some other midwives that they didn't have like in their schedule, they couldn't fit me in to come to my birth at home. But other midwives that said I would feel comfortable birthing at home if this is what they diagnosed me with. Velamentous cord insertion was the diagnosis, and so yeah,
What
I
does
ended
that
up
mean? Can
birthing.
you explain that in layman's
When the umbilical cord is attached to the very edge of the placenta, and so the risk is that during contractions it could detach from the placenta easily, which would make baby not have any supply of oxygen or blood or nutrients, and could also have mama hemorrhage. And so the risk was high. But after birthing my baby in my backyard underneath an oak tree by our fire pit, the placenta was completely normal, and it made me not necessarily not trust the medical system, but more so trust myself. That like I knew. And it still brings like, wow, like, yeah, women are so. I remember that's what one midwife told me is like, you'll know. Like, you're so connected to your baby. If you have to go to the hospital, you'll know. And just like that empowerment was so powerful. It was so beautiful. And so just riding that wave throughout this third pregnancy of like, I'll know if I need something. Um, and then the birth, the mantras were to my body just over and over again. It was my most intense labor yet and one of my longest. Just telling my body again and again, I trust you. I deeply, deeply trust you. And that there's a pain that heals rather than hurts. And I feel like that medicine was so profound for me because I feel like in life in general, we think that if we're not feeling good, then there's something wrong, rather than everything that happens is perfect. And so I don't believe that like a perfect birth is one that's fast and painless. I feel that whatever birth you have is perfect, like the perfect experience that you're meant to have to form you, to form. And so I felt more connected to my baby during labor than I ever had in my previous labors. And there was never a part of me that was afraid that something was wrong. But it was deep and it was long and it was intense. It was about 17 hours through the night and through the whole next day. Um,
And in that whole time, no fear, no,
no,
no self-doubt.
no
I'm
fear.
so curious to ask you about that because I feel that not just in the arena of birthing, but in so many different facets of our lives, as women in particular, over and over again, I hear the self-doubt, the lack of self-trust, the not knowing what our intuition is telling us. Like many times when I'm working with women, I'll say, what's your gut telling you? What's your intuition? And women can't even access that.
Yeah.
And I wonder, I'm curious to ask you in that deep self-trust, in that deep fearless state, do you think it's an innate part of your personality? Like, is that just how you are and who you are? Or is it something you've learned or developed? Or where does
hmm
that come from? Because that's the magic elixir that we wish we all had.
Yeah, I think it's two things. One is like my approach to Ayurveda is so many people think, oh, it's this rigid system that we have to follow. And I feel like the first step in learning about Ayurveda, which is how we teach it, me and my husband, is the first step is learning to listen. It's learning to listen. It's waking up in the morning and saying, do I feel heavy or do I feel light? Do I feel cool or do I feel warm? So starting with the 20 gunas, the different qualities, like just attuning to like what's alive inside of me right now. And so it can start with just listening in those small, simple ways. And then from that, we learn it's like a relationship with life that we're constantly being given feedback. And can we learn to listen rather than just getting into our head and what we've learned and what we know and what we should do and what we shouldn't do? It's really learning to listen. And for each person, it's so unique, it's so individual. For some people, the best place to birth might be the hospital if they're deeply listening, and but sometimes people do that because they're afraid of what would happen if they birth at home. It's like that, it's not a deeper listening. And so just starting in the simple ways to listen, like what's alive right now, can support us in times where it doesn't feel good. Can I trust that there's a pain that heals us? Every experience in our life, like the painful times, maybe especially when we can look back, it's like, wow, I grew so much. I learned so much. I felt so much. And whatever we feel, it's not that like something just happened and I feel it. It's because there's something inside of us that wants to be seen. Usually a part of us from our childhood that wasn't seen or held or loved. And the second part was my husband, who held the most beautiful, ceremonious space of deep trust and deep prayer. I remember when when finally it was time to, it's like my body was just pushing him out. I was on all fours in our temple room, in our altar room. And it was his head came out. And it was the one moment where I was like, is he okay? Because I didn't hear him crying, and his eyes were, my husband said his eyes were just closed. His face was blue, like babies usually are when they first come out. And he just said, he's perfect. And just like so trusting. He's absolutely perfect. And having someone with me that held that space of total trust, which comes from a life of living like that. You can't just kind of call that in the moment of intensity. But living in a way where every day we pray to the West. It's the medicine of the West, the mystery, the moments where we're gonna get triggered or challenged today. Like, can I trust that whatever comes, it's an opportunity for me to soften my edges, those parts of me that think that this is wrong, this shouldn't be happening. Can I trust that this is exactly what's meant to happen to help me heal, to help me grow, to keep me alive ultimately. So I'm not just living a kind of a dead, I should do this robotic life, you know?
Mm. I
Yeah,
love that you reference prayer because I think, I mean, I know that you're someone who lives with a deep faith and in the Bhakti lineage. And I wonder how much of what you're describing is also to do with relationship with God, higher
yeah,
power, the the idea of surrender and handing it over, and that trust and the surrender kind of go hand in hand. They walk
abs
together, right?
absolutely. Yeah, I feel like to do a free birth, it's like the journey there was meeting the perfection of God and his plan. And that whatever happens, again, is perfect, is God's will, and that I'm playing a part in that, and also praying for the wisdom to know, like, let me be an instrument of your will, whatever it is that you want. Let me not get in the way of your plan with my desires or my fears. But definitely a deep trust in God's will for us is huge in that
And
decision.
it's beautiful that you described it. That's not something that we can pull on in the moment. Like that comes from a lifetime of, as you say, prayer, meditation, being in relationship. Like it's and then the foundation is there, right? In the same way that you're describing in your relationship with your husband, that deep trust, you guys have built that. And then
Yeah,
in the moments where you need it, those critical moments, which I always think the birthing process is a mirror of the process of parenting, right? So we go through this initiation of birthing, and then we have these human beings that
yeah,
we have to care for a very long time. And it's huge. And that requires a lot of self-trust in the same way that there are these narratives around birthing, do this, don't do that. And we outsource, you use that word, and I totally agree with you. So much of our we deny our own inner wisdom for, what this person said or that person said, and every expert has a different opinion, and it's so overwhelming. But
yeah,
when we can come back to that place of self-trust, I find for myself, I'm calling on that in parenting, whether it's my teenagers or my 3-year-old or my 8-year-old, it's like
yeah.
over and over again, that process of self-trust, of asking for help, of
Totally.
surrender, of prayer. It
Yeah,
doesn't stop.
and we get feedback. And I think that's something also to be alive to is like with parenting, of course, there's so many books and courses on how to parent well, which can be so helpful, like different tools to have. But then let's try them out and let's receive the feedback from our children and see, like, does this work? Does this contribute to a thriving ecosystem? And I think ultimately what it comes down to is mama being nourished, like me being nourished is what's going to allow my family to thrive. And so me being attuned to ultimately, it's like, yeah, our environment and supporting myself to thrive is what's going to support everyone to thrive.
Yeah. One thing I really noticed in my own postnatal times was, when I had my first child and my second child, I had so much support and I was able to stay home for 40 days and be really well cared for. We were living with my parents-in-law at the time, and I was very, very blessed to be like absolutely nourished by them. And then as I had more children, my parents in-law who still remained living with us got elderly and frail, and actually there was a kind of changing of the dynamic where we were caring for them. They're now, both of them are passed. um, and so I had young children and elderly parents at home that required care, and so I was unable to really do the 40 days fully with the amount of support I know is really required. And I
Yeah.
did my best. I did my best. But by the time it got to baby number 5, it was definitely scrappy. And what I notice is the recovery then is so much longer, so much
Yeah.
slower. I mean, I was thinking about it the other day. My daughter is 3 now, my youngest child, and I just now feel fully back, fully,
Well,
you know, resourced
yeah.
energetically, physically, emotionally. It took a lot longer, whereas with my first, much quicker because I had that really robust support. So I'm being a little long-winded in saying that taking that time very early on, and I know because I've read your book and you talk about this so much in the book, it's an investment in your health that lasts for years
Yeah.
postpartum. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Totally. And it's really a time of integration. And I feel like that's the necessary component, is that with any huge change in our life, whether it's, I mean, even like moving houses, it's like suddenly everything is different, or somebody that we love passing away, or a baby being born. It's like a change that changes everything. And so, in the moment our babies are born, it's this complete reorientation to life. And oftentimes, if we're thrown back into the tasks and the to-dos and the normal life that we were living before, we don't have time to integrate or to become who we're asked to become because of this change. Like our creations will change us, will grow us, will evolve us. And we literally are a new person after such an initiation of birth. And so taking the time, I like to think of it now as a time of becoming. Who am I now as a mother of 3? Who am I now that everything is different? And it's finding myself again. And it's being held with the support that allows for that discovery of who am I now? Who am I now? And if we don't have that support, that integration period is much longer, where it takes a lot longer to settle into, like here I am. It could take years to like, okay, like now I have 5 kids and like now I feel like I've got the hang of this and I feel alive and nourished. But if we're really held in the space, and again, like if we can think of our friends that have just lost somebody with that same, like, how can I hold this person as they discover who they are now? That grief period, of course, it's going to come in waves. And there's times as a mom where I'm still like, what's going on? Like, I don't have this. It's not like everything's just going to be smooth after that. But that holding time right as that shift is happening just allows us to like step into, okay, here I am, here I am. And from there, if we're established in that, there's a lot more ease in life.
I think
There's a
it's
lot more of
really,
an ability to meet life.
I wholeheartedly agree. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about the sibling dynamics and also thinking that this integration time, it's not just for mum and for the new baby, but it's for the whole family, the whole like siblings also having that slow time to be home and to get used to another being in the
Yeah,
family dynamic. It's so helpful. It's so
yeah,
helpful. And I mean, I think that extends to it's funny, my 11-year-old had a high school interview this week to see which high school he's going to go to. He went for an interview. And one of the questions I asked him was, oh, what activities do you like to do? Like, what are your hobbies? And he spoke about swimming and a couple of other things. And then he said, but my favorite thing to do, it was so sweet. My favorite thing to do is just hang out at home with my family and play with my brothers, my sister.
Wow.
And I was having a little internal cheering moment because
Totally.
as a big
Wow.
family, I feel like for us to spend time together, to not always need to be doing activities or learning something or going somewhere, but just to be in each other's presence, that's so healing. That's so healing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was
Good job
very
to you,
sweet
Mama.
moment.
That has a lot to do with the space that you're holding. That's so beautiful. What a dream.
Yeah. And when I think about my postpartum times, obviously the first one or two children is a little different, but with more children, it's a time of being home, being
Yeah.
in pajamas, uh, hanging out and having other kids around. Like they're there and they're around and they're maybe helping, which may or may not be helpful. Um,
Yeah,
and getting to know their sibling too. It's such a beautiful, beautiful experience.
totally. And also to, I mean, I this was my easiest and most beautiful postpartum and also the easiest transition. So many people were like, "Oh, you're going to be outnumbered," all the things that people say. And my experience is that with three, and also, of course, I feel like the little person that came in, his name is Rama, he brings with him his own energy and his own karma, and that alone is going to change the dynamics. But there's been so much ease and so much beauty. But of course, those first few weeks was a lot of holding space for the feelings of my older children. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and that my son would have meltdowns like he hasn't had since he was two, just like on the floor crying about something that obviously, because I'm aware enough, I knew it has nothing to do with X, Y, or Z. It's because he's feeling the changes. Children are so attuned to energy. And for them too, like you were saying, how do they fit into this new dynamic? Who are they now that everything's changed? And also for my husband, he also went through, I feel like with postpartum, oftentimes there's a grieving period of like, things aren't what they were before. And let me grieve that. Let me actually allow myself to feel the sadness of like, it's no longer just the four of us. That like, that's okay. It doesn't mean that he's not going to love and fully embrace the third child. But holding space for their big emotions, like knowing that like all they need to know is that Mom is still here. Like, and I love you so much. And rather than me getting triggered or annoyed by his outbursts of irrational emotion, it's like, no, like he's feeling deeply. Like, let me hold him and love him in this shift, just like I'm being held and nourished and loved by so many during this time. They need that too.
Yeah. Yeah, they really do. I have a final question I'd like to ask you. At the very beginning, you spoke about wild pregnancy, and we've spoken about free birthing. And I think it's fair to say there's a huge movement in that direction now for so many. And I'm interested to hear your perspectives around that. Why do you think so many women are heading in this direction? Like, there's so many shifts happening around birthing at this time. And what I notice is a lot of polarity. So there's a lot of kind of mm, very strong opinions and very polarizing opinions. Um, and I mean, yeah, there's so much to say about that. There's so much to say, but there's definitely growth in the area of wild pregnancy and free birthing. And I'm curious what your thoughts are as to why that might be.
Mm. Well, one, I think just the awareness of that possibility. I think for some generations, it wasn't considered even an option, a safe or viable option for women to birth outside of the system. And so I think one is the possibility and the awareness of it from women who are sharing about their experiences. And so I think the possibility is awakening like, oh yeah, like we have been doing this for thousands and thousands and thousands of years without the support of the medical system. I think also a lot is coming to light around the unnecessary interventions and the potentially dangerous interventions and even statistics around hospital births versus home births, and just seeing that statistically home births are just as safe, if not safer. Um, and I mean, I would hope it's more women coming into their knowing and trusting in themselves in a deeper way. I know that the journey of a wild pregnancy and free birth will hopefully cultivate that within women, a deeper trust and a deeper knowing. Um, but I think those things, just the awareness of the possibility of it, and also the statistics of, yeah, women maybe not feeling safe in a hospital setting and feeling safer at home.
Yeah.
I think those things can contribute to the growth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so beautiful to chat with you. And thank you for sharing so freely about your life and your family and your experiences. I feel like the sharing that you do in a public space is so nourishing for so many women. Like it's a true gift. And I know that it's not always easy to expose yourself and be in, in that sort of public arena where people can kind of see into your family and see into your life. But I really feel it's a deep service that you do because it's really inspiring. It's really inspiring for so many women. So thank you. And a big, big shout out to your book, which is one of my favorites. It's dogged and highlighted, and it's such a beautiful book. Anyone that's watching or listening, if you're pregnant yourself or you work with pregnant women or you have a friend who's pregnant, please buy them this book. It's Ayurveda Mama. We'll obviously link it below, but yes, such a big contribution, such a big contribution because it's so thorough as well. It's a real, I can see as a fellow writer what a labor of love it was to create.
Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you so much. I feel so encouraged. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time today.